Yep.
Very good. Okay. So thanks everyone for joining me today. As you probably know by now, a couple of months ago, I got the chance to go to Zambia with a nonprofit called the Limkind Foundation. So the Limkind Foundation, basically what they do is they go to other countries around the world and they make prosthetic limbs for free for children. And so they're a relatively young organization. I believe they've been around for less than 10 years. But the work that they're doing is really amazing. And they got a lot of support very quickly. And so they've been able to really expand and do a lot of things in the few years that they've been around. And so it's really been a privilege for me to be part of the work that they do. Just for some like very quick backstory, when I was 19 years old, that was when I lost my legs. Basically, I was working for the Department of Public Works in the city that I'm from in Michigan, and I was working in the street, and I got hit by a car from behind, and that's the very, very, very short story of how I lost my legs. So happy to talk more about that and answer questions at the end. Um, at the end of the presentation, I do plan to have time for questions. So if you think of something and you're able to save it to the end, that's great. If you have something quick or a quick comment, feel free to throw up your hand. And, I want this to be a little bit conversational as much as we can. But if I feel like it might be a long answer, I might ask us to save till the end. So I think that's all the housekeeping we have to do. So first, to get us started, I'll talk a little bit about Limkind. So Limkind is based in Queens, New York. They do have a storefront brick and mortar clinic. They specialize in pediatric care, but they do also serve adults. And so this is where if you need a prosthetic leg or an arm or anything like that, this is where you go. This picture on the right, this is Rob Schulman and his sister Jill Smith. They're a brother and sister who founded the Limkind Foundation. Rob is a prosthetist, so they're the ones who actually make the leg and assemble it and really get you going. And Jill is a physical therapist, so they're kind of like this awesome dynamic duo team that the two of them do a lot for amputees in the world. And so they started this together. I met them, I think in like 2019. I was volunteering with another nonprofit. It's called Camp No Limits, and they host summer camps for kids with limb loss and limb difference so that they're able to get a summer camp experience without having to worry about feeling different or like they might not be able to participate in certain activities. So I was volunteering there, and so were Rob and Jill, and that's where I met them. And in 2022, Rob messaged me on Facebook and said, "Hey, the Limkai Foundation is going to Ethiopia. Would you like to come with us?" And I said, "Sure." So that was actually the first time I got connected with Limkind. I got to go on a trip with them to Ethiopia, which was just as fabulous as you can imagine. And so this recent trip was kind of the same thing. Rob had sent out an email and said, "Would you like to join us?" And I said yes. So that was kind of how we got started. Um, I'll move on here. So these are some of the countries that Limkind has been able to go to so far. The first one, they've been to Haiti, and actually Limkind got started because Rob went to Haiti after the big earthquake that happened a decade or so ago. He went there, I think, with a different organization to make prosthetic legs for people who were affected. And that kind of inspired him and made him feel like maybe this is some kind of calling that he could pursue. And so since then, I think Limkind has gone to Haiti maybe twice, and it's been a while since they've been able to go back because of some of the unrest and things that are happening there. But they've also been to Sri Lanka, Ethiopia, Kenya, the Philippines, and of course, Zambia. The goal of Limkind is to return to the same countries every year and ideally add a new one every year. So this way they can provide continual care to the folks that they meet because especially the kids, once you get a prosthetic leg, with time, you're going to grow out of it and you're going to need a new one. And so this way, Limkind is able to return and make a new one and provide continual care for the folks who need it. So I think that's really great. I love that it's not like they just show up and make a leg and leave. The other thing I appreciate about Limkind is that what they do is so much more than just making a prosthetic limb. On the team, they bring prosthetists, they bring physical therapists, and they bring amputee mentors. So while the prosthetists are in the lab creating during the week, the physical therapists and the mentors are getting to know the kids, getting to know their families. The mentors, we're teaching them about our lives and the things that we've overcome and trying to communicate the message that you can still live a good life with a disability. You can still live a fulfilling life. You can have a job, you can finish school, you can find love. These are the kinds of questions that a lot of people ask when they lose a limb or if they're born with a limb difference. And so that I think is just as critical. It's just as critical as making a prosthetic limb, I think, because a lot of times someone will get a prosthetic limb and it takes a lot of work to learn how to use it. And sometimes people give up on it and their leg just sits in the closet because it's so difficult. And so you have to have that mental and emotional piece as well. And there are other organizations who go and make prosthetic limbs around the world. As far as I know, I think Limkind is the only one that has that extra piece where they bring experienced amputees and physical therapists to actually teach them how to use the leg. That's the other thing too. So I love Limkind. Now, let's move on to the next slide. So in case you're wondering where Zambia is, this is a nice big map of Africa. Zambia is all the way down here towards the bottom. So it's this pink kind of hook-shaped country here. It's surrounded by Tanzania, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Angola, Democratic Republic of the Congo. So that's kind of the region that Zambia is in down there. Has anyone ever been to Zambia? Anyone in here? Okay, we got a couple. Okay, great. I love it.
Yeah, until the guide, I was standing back, so it didn't look like it really was. To me, it looked like he was right on the edge of the falls, pushing my son over. They were actually 20 feet back,
Yeah.
but it scared the daylights out of me.
Yeah, I can imagine. Wow. Yeah. 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 It was it. Oh, what are the name of those falls? Is it Victoria? Yeah, yeah. Those are kind of the famous falls in Zambia. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see them, but I hear they're very beautiful. So just some quick things about Zambia in case you're interested. The capital of Zambia is Lusaka, and that's where we went on our trip. So we got to spend our time in the capital. We got to see both the city and the more downtown part, and also some of the more rural areas, which was really neat. And I have some videos to kind of show you the differences of those settings so you can kind of get a little view. In Zambia, the population is approximately 21.3 million people. Something that I find very interesting is in Zambia, they speak more than 70 languages throughout the country. There are 3 common languages, English, Bemba, and Nyanja. They actually teach English in schools. And so a lot of the people that we met, if they had been through school and had gone far enough to really learn a lot of it, a lot of them did speak English, at least enough for us to really be able to communicate well. So a lot of like the teenage boys who were right in the middle of that like sweet spot of learning it in school, a lot of them had very good English and we were able to communicate without a translator, which was really, really nice. So, and then the last one there, in case you're interested, their kind of main industry is mining. They have a lot of copper and cobalt, and there's actually a very large population of people from China who live in Zambia. And a lot of them are there for the mining industry. So when you drive around, you see all of these signs and billboards, and they're either in English or Chinese. Yeah, which was not something I expected, but it was very interesting to learn about. Let's see. Next. Okay, so as a team, we all left the country from JFK Airport in New York City. In this picture on the right, you see all of these suitcases. In addition to our personal luggage, we had to check 50 suitcases full of all the materials that we needed
Yeah.
to make legs, to play with the kids. So we had like coloring books and soccer balls and everything that we needed either to make a prosthetic leg or play with kids and have fun. So we showed up at the airport, and thankfully, Limkind has sort of an informal relationship with Qatar Airways at JFK. And this picture on the left is the founder, Rob, posing with the two ladies at the Qatar Airways check-in counter. And they've become very familiar with Limkind. And so when we showed up, they opened up an extra part of the counter just for us to cycle us through. And they did a really good job handling the chaos that we brought. And we got a nice picture to boot with them. Okay, let's see.
Oh, wow.
So this is the team. This picture was taken after we landed in Zambia, right outside of our hotel. So you can see there's 19 of us here, and there's one more team member who came later in the week, and I'll explain that later. But this is the whole team right here, prosthetists, physical therapists, and mentors. So there's me. This is the only time you'll see me wearing pants is in that picture. And I'll tell you later that day, I took scissors and I cut the legs off of it.
Why did you have to wear them in the first place?
So, technically, as a rule, they want us to wear scrubs, and they give us scrubs the day that we get there. They give us the shirts, they give us the scrubs, and then, but of course, like for me, they understand that I don't want to wear pants.
Right.
So when we got to the hospital and we got the tools out, I grabbed a pair of shears and I cut the legs off. That's right. Yeah.
Why don't you want to wear pants?
That's a good question. So the question was, why don't I want to wear pants? And that's just because it just takes a little extra work to get them on in the morning.
Oh.
You kind of have to thread the legs through the pant legs and then put them on as like one unit.
Oh.
And sometimes when you walk, the back of the knee, when it bends, it can chew up.
Yeah.
pants.
Yeah.
So I pretty much always wear shorts. It's just a lot easier. Even when I got married, my wife let me wear shorts.
She let you.
Yes, that's right. That's the word. She let me. So, yeah, that's a good question. So that's the team. Now, I have a couple of videos just to kind of show the scenery. In just a second, we'll get past this wall and it'll open up and you'll see. I took this video on the bus right after we landed. So this is, you can just kind of get a general idea. This is in Lusaka. You'll see a big billboard. It's all in English. There's a lot of cars driving around. And in just a second, we start moving and you'll see in the middle under the bridge, there's some really kind of beautiful landscaping here. Very vibrant green colors. And so it was a really beautiful place. I found that it was very colorful. The greenery was very vibrant. A lot of the signs and the buildings had nice bright colors. And this is in the city, but it's not quite the downtown part. So, but you can see it's still fairly busy. There's lots of cars and there's a few people walking around. In the downtown portion, it was pretty busy. Lots of people walking, lots of cars, lots of taller buildings. So very developed. And this is here we're arriving at our hotel. So that's to kind of give you a little peek at the downtown area. Now I have another video that will show you some of the more rural areas. So every morning we left our hotel and we drove to the hospital that we worked at. And it was a very different change of scenery. The hospital is a little bit more on the outskirts. So we drove over there and I'll start the video. And so again, this is taken from the bus, so it's not the best video, but you can see it's a little different. The buildings are different. In just a second, you'll see there are like some fruit stands where people are selling things. You'll see a lot of churches along here, some homes. There are some red booths. You might see one in just a second. And the red booth is almost kind of like an ATM. And those are everywhere. So there's a little ditch here and there's some like sewage and other things kind of flowing through there to its destination. And so this is the area that the hospital was in. Lots of storefronts around here and lots of stores set their products outside. So there was one that had bed frames those are all bar stool chairs. And yeah, they just sell the chairs. So they set them outside so people can see. And yeah, that's the scenery. So the hospital was just a couple minutes up the road from where we are here in this video. And so very different change of scenery. We also drove through a neighborhood called Olympia, which is where all the politicians live. So you can imagine their neighborhood is very different than some of the other areas. Lots of big houses with big walls up with barbed wire and private security. And very interesting to drive by and just kind of see the different ways that people live. And you have a question?
We didn't go to the cities when I was, more to the rural
Sure.
people. And I was really shocked. And I don't know why I didn't get this answer when I was there, so I'm hoping you can. Satisfy my curiosity.
Sure.
To how immaculate the clothing, the girls in their school uniforms, sparkling white.
Yeah.
Do they have laundromats? Do they have? Scrubbing them on the rocks. How do they get them so?
It's a good question. That's a good question. I'm not sure. Yeah, you're right though. A lot of the clothing is very striking and I have a lot of pictures here, so you'll get to see some of that. School uniforms, like you said, a lot of white. A lot of the parents that were with us at the hospital wore very colorful outfits that were very nice and beautiful. And so we'll get to kind of take a peek at that after a while too. So that's a good question. Yeah. Okay, everyone always asks about food when you go somewhere. So very quickly, I'll talk about this. The picture in the middle is what would be considered more of like a traditional Zambian food or more in that vein. So this little white ball here is called nshima, and it's like a cornmeal mixed with water. It's a very dense ball that's kind of doughy, very sticky. And so you rip pieces off and you make a little patty and you use it to pick up the rest of the food on the plate and eat it. It's like if you've ever had like Ethiopian food, it's similar, injera, similar thing. So the other items on the plate are cabbage and beans. That was our lunch every day at the hospital. And the two pictures, the one on the left and the one on the right, this is what we were eating at the hotel. It was pretty good. I mean, very colorful plates, always options for vegetables and different meats. And we ate very well when we were there. They treated us nicely. So that was really great.
Did you eat any exotic meats?
Not really, at least not that I know of. It was all pretty standard. I think the nshima was the most unique thing that we ate. I think. Yeah, good question. Okay. So now we'll start talking about the actual work that we did in Zambia. So we spent the week working at a hospital called the Cure International Children's Hospital. Now, Cure International is a nonprofit, and they're actually based in Grand Rapids, Michigan, about 10 minutes from the apartment I used to live in. And they have hospitals, several in Africa, I think even some in South America and Asia, and they're all geared towards providing free healthcare to children, which is really wonderful. And typically when Limkind does these trips, it's almost always at a Cure hospital. And they've begun to develop a pretty good partnership where they understand what we're doing, we understand what they're doing. And so Cure is another really wonderful organization to look into if you're interested. So we had a really good time at their hospital. Cure Zambia is one of the few locations that does have a prosthetics lab. So they did have a little lab where they could make prosthetic legs. They had a small team of people on staff. In about a year, they make about 20 prosthetic legs. And in 4 days, we made over 40. And it's not just the quantity, it's also the quality. We were able to bring in new materials, new components, things that are more durable, give the kids a little bit more functionality and mobility. And so it was really special that we were able to go there. And as our prosthetists were working in the lab, their staff were working with our team. So they got to show them kind of some of the techniques that we do and really trying to work with them to help them become self-sufficient and be able to do things, without needing us there, basically. So it's really great. We have a really good relationship with them, and here is a really great organization. So in this picture, this was the very first day at the hospital, and this is when we got to meet the kids and the families for the first time. So all the families were under this little gazebo, and we came in, and you can see that's the founder, Rob, and he's addressing the families, and there's a translator there next to him. So he is on staff at the hospital, and his role is similar to almost like what you would think of as like a hospital chaplain. And we never learned his name because everyone just called him Pastor. So, so we just called him Pastor. And he was such a nice guy. I mean, so sweet, so good with the kids. Really understood that we were there to do more than just make a prosthetic leg. And we really put him to work with the translating too. And his voice was getting tired by the end of the week. Yeah, we loved having him around. So after we met the families, what we started doing was we rotated everyone through this kind of evaluation system. So we had a check-in table here. This is me and the other 3 amputee mentors on the trip. So all of the families came to our desk. They gave us some information. We gave them a little folder. Then we sent them to the physical therapists. The PTs did some different evaluations. They tested their flexibility, their range of motion, their strength. They looked at their skin to make sure they didn't have any like blisters or sores, something that could potentially make it dangerous or unhealthy to fit a prosthetic leg on their body. Thankfully, we didn't have anyone like that, which was great. So we cycled them through the physical therapists. Then we sent them over to the prosthetists. So what they're doing in these pictures here, they are starting to do some casting. So I'll try to move so you guys can see my legs. My thighs here, this piece is called the socket. So the socket is the part of the prosthesis that attaches it to your body. And it's the most important part because you need your leg to stay on your body. And it's also the most complicated part because to do it and to do it well, they have to custom fit it and form it to your body. And a lot of people, their limbs will have different shapes, and some people have a lot of skin grafts, and it can be very complex to get a good fit so that someone can wear their leg a lot so it's not slipping off, so that it's not they're not getting a lot of blisters and things like that. So it's very important, and everything when it comes to getting a prosthetic leg begins with this casting process. So in the picture on the left, she has a little bowl of water beneath her, and then kind of off to the right on the floor, there are these little white packages.
Mm-hmm.
Inside the white packages is something similar to like a roll of gauze, and the gauze has kind of like a plaster on it. It's a dust. So they dip the roll in the water to get that plaster wet. And then they wrap the leg with it and they squeeze it real tight to fit and form it to their leg so that it really captures the shape in as much detail as possible. All the little crevices, all the bumps, everything, because they want it to be a perfect fit. So that's what they're doing here. And once they make that cast of the leg, they take the cast and they fill it to make a mold. And so on the left, this is David. And every time he walked out of the lab, he was just covered in dust and plaster because basically this was his job, was pouring the molds into all the casts. And so it's a little difficult to see, but in that little container on the floor, there are several casts in there that are drying because he's filled it with what will eventually become a mold. So then the next step in the process, once they have the mold, is they start to modify the mold, and they'll do some grinding and some shaping because you get extra little flecks and things that you don't necessarily need. So they modify it and they scrape off all the extra stuff. So then you end up with this mold of a limb, and eventually they, I don't know exactly how they do it. It's kind of magical, but they're able to uh, do like another mold around that mold and then somehow turn that into carbon fiber. I don't know the exact process. It seems pretty interesting. It's very, yeah, it is. It's like magic. It really is. And so these are just some more pictures of the prosthetists working in the lab. I think I have a couple more. Yeah, just kind of similar thing, doing lots of grinding and scraping. So if you were wondering what was in all those suitcases we brought to the airport, these are some examples. I don't know if you've ever gone to another country and tried to bring in a suitcase full of feet. Customs has a lot of questions. But thankfully Rob had a lot of good answers, and so they let us in. And so this was when we first got there, we're organizing the lab. I'm over there on the left and we're kind of organizing the feet, the left with the right, things like that. This picture on the right is the different knees that we have. So you'll notice that they're quite different than the knees that I have. Usually for children, their knees are, I don't want to say simpler because that's not the right word, but they're just different because they have smaller bodies, and so there's less that you can do with the technology there. And also, it's just difficult to get legs that have a lot of technology in general, even in the US. So a lot of the knees that we have in this suitcase are totally powered by physics. There's no electronics in there or anything fancy like I'm lucky to have. But these are great knees. They're very durable. They allow the kids to run around and do all the things that you want kids to be able to do. And so we were really happy to be able to bring all of these with us. We get these in a number of different ways. Sometimes people will donate, like if they have extras, like, I mean, you can see I have some spare items up here. And so if people have extras, they'll donate them. Sometimes the businesses that actually manufacture these parts will donate them. Linkkind has started building some relationships there. And so it really is, it takes a village. Yeah, it really does. It takes a lot to be able to make this happen, let alone raising the money to send 20 people to Zambia, right? It's all the materials and there's a lot involved. And so Limkind does a really wonderful job somehow coordinating all of that to do 6, 7, 8 trips in 1 year. So it's really fascinating to learn about kind of how it all comes together. Claire?
So these are being made for kids.
Yes.
Kids are by definition still growing.
Yes.
Does a kid outgrow their prosthesis and donate it back? Will it be useful for another kid, or will parts of it be useful?
It's a good question. So parts of it will be useful. The socket, the part that attaches to your body, no one's going to be able to use that. It's kind of unfortunate because there's not really a good way to discard of a socket. I don't know that you can really recycle it. You can't really give it to someone else. So that's one issue. However, the rest of it, the knee, the foot, those are all things that can be passed on to someone else. And so a lot of these are knees that children grew out of, and their parents donated them to Limkind so that they could be used for other children. So that's a really good question. Let's see. So after that first day where we kind of evaluated everyone and did the casting, for the next 3 or 4 days, we broke off into groups. So the prosthetists, they stayed in the lab and they worked really hard, and they have to do a lot to get all of these legs done by the end of the week. And so they're working really hard back there. And while they do that, the rest of us get to go play with the kids. So this is the group that I probably spent the most time with throughout the trip. These are all of the amputee mentors and the physical therapists. So we got to play with the kids, and really what it was is it's physical therapy disguised as play. So the PTs came up with these really wonderful games and exercises and things that we can do to get them moving. to work on their gross motor skills and their fine motor skills. We did crafts and all kinds of different things. But most importantly, this was our chance to really get to know the kids and for them to get to know us so that they could warm up to us and learn that we're safe people, we're people that they can, open up to. And same for the parents too. Usually the way it starts out is we're playing with the kids and doing all of our activities, and the parents kind of sit around the outside and they watch because understandably they're trying to figure out, who are these people? Are they safe to be with my kids? Do I trust them? And so when we are doing these kinds of things like the physical therapy and whatnot, it's just a chance to actually get to know the kids and hopefully kind of start building those relationships. So you can see we're playing a little game there. I don't know if you've seen these little scooters that kids use sometimes, like in gym class, they can scoot around. We did races with those, and the kids were all happy to race me because I lost every time. So we had a lot of fun with them, and we were really happy to be able to do that. I have a couple more pictures. Oh, we have a video of soccer. So you'll see a lot of the kids are missing one leg and they use crutches to get around.
Good pass. Good pass, Paul.
That's my pace.
Let's go.
That was crazy.
Yeah. So just a little example of some of the fun we got to have. That's just another picture. We're playing Duck Duck Goose, and I can't really run, so this was another game the kids loved to play against me. Some of the crafts that we did, so we made like a paper chain, and on each piece of paper we had the kids write something nice about themselves. So these guys wrote like, I'm happy, I'm kind, I'm grateful. Just wanted them to write something positive, and then we connected them into like a chain, and it was kind of this metaphor for like, we're all connected because we all have this similar experience that we share. And for a lot of these kids, this was their first time ever meeting another amputee. They had never met each other. They had never met anyone who was missing an arm or a leg. It was all very new to them to be in a place where they weren't standing out as someone who is different or a burden or all of these things. So again, part of what we do, we wanted it to be more than just making a leg. We want them to know that, their lives matter, they can be proud of themselves, and those kinds of things. So Betty Ann, you have a question?
Are most of the missing limbs because of accidents or war or what?
Good question. So a variety of reasons that the kids are missing their limbs. Some of them were born without certain bones, and it's like a congenital thing. I think that's the term. It's a congenital thing. Some of them were in car accidents. There were a few bites. There were some snake bites, and we had 2 kids that had crocodile bites, which was very. So once we started kind of warming up with the kids, and I'll kind of touch on that a little bit later, but there was a time after we had shared our stories and how we lost our legs, where some of the older teenagers had asked if they could share with us. And so that was kind of the first time they really started to open up with us. And so they shared a little bit about their stories, and that was a very touching moment. So great question. So apart from the crafts and the games and things like that, we also had mentor sessions. So these took kind of 2 different forms. The first way is every mentor gave a presentation about their life. So we all got to talk about where we're from, how we lost our legs, our family, how we learned to walk again, what we do for work, all of those kinds of things. And I mentioned earlier that a lot of the kinds of questions that both the kids and the parents have to do with just, can my kid finish school? Can my kid get a job? Can I find love? Those kind of like really important things in life, right? That make us feel like we're living our life to the fullest and really getting something good from life. And so basically our presentations focused on a lot of that. I shared them all about working at Pasadena Village. And, I should have included it, but I had a slide. There's a picture of myself and Patty Lamar, and I had a picture of us two together and put that up on the screen. So they got to learn a little about Pasadena Village too, which was great. So these are just some pictures. Now you'll see here, we're together in a group. So all of us up front, these are the mentors. In addition to giving individual presentations, we also had moments where we came together and we talked about specific subjects. So we got to talk about things like, when you get your prosthesis, how do you take care of it? Everyone gets one of these, which is called a liner. The liner is really important because this is what makes direct contact with your skin. You roll it onto your leg and it helps to protect you from the harshness of walking. So it helps protect you from getting blisters and all those kinds of things. It also gets very sweaty and really kind of gross in there. So you have to find a way to keep it clean. And so we spent a lot of time talking about, do the absolute best you can to keep this clean with whatever means you have. Some of the kids don't have access to running water and soap and things like that. So we had to try and just get across, however you can, keep this clean, because if it gets dirty, you can get infections and blisters and all kinds of things that will take you out of your legs and will just create more difficulties. So we spent a lot of time really trying to drive that home and just opening up to questions and answers, a lot of that, because as you can imagine, they had a lot of questions, both the kids and the parents. And so these were really the moments where we got to really get closer with the kids. This is when the teenagers asked if they could share with us about how they lost their legs. This was when we really got to talk about, you can have a good life with a disability. You can have a fulfilling life. You can do the things you want to do. Sometimes it takes work. You have to support each other with the friends that you make, but you can do it. The other part of it is that a lot of times when you know you're getting a prosthetic leg, and this is common for really everyone, it happened for me. When you're about to get your very first prosthetic leg, you're so excited, right? You're so excited. You see all these other people walking around and doing all these amazing things. And then you put it on and it's like, oh, this is a lot harder than I thought, right? Sometimes there's discomfort. Sometimes there's a little pain. It's heavy, it's awkward, and reality kind of hits and it can be really discouraging. So we also took this time to try and share with them just about the reality of this is what to expect when you get your leg. And you know what? Some people will put their leg on and they'll just take off. Some people, it will take a little more work. It depends. It's totally individual. Everyone has a different situation. Everyone has a different body. There's so many factors at play. This is what can happen, but don't be discouraged because you can overcome all of those things and you're more than capable of becoming confident and mobile and doing all the things you want to do. So these are all the things where we really tried to drive home hard in these sessions. And for me, these were my favorite parts of the trip because we really got to bond with them and talk about a lot of things. So this is I'm about to show a video. This is an example of what it looked like during the individual presentations. So it's going to be my friend Roderick. Roderick is just like me. He's with both legs above the knees. He is also first and the only double above knee amputee to complete a full Ironman marathon. So he's a very special person. So in case you're like me and you don't know, the full Ironman, it's a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike ride, and a 26.2 mile run. So in total, it's a little over 140 miles. So Roderick gave a really wonderful presentation about his life. He wrote a book. If you're interested, he wrote a book. You can buy it on Amazon. Not to promote his book, but he has a very interesting life. And so yeah, I think it's called Iron Will. It's called Iron Will. Yeah. And so he talked a lot about his relationship with his mother because there were so many parents in the room, and we weren't just there for the kids, we're there for the parents. His mother really sacrificed a lot for him to be able to get his prosthetic legs, and he was born missing the bones, so that all he's known is living a life without legs. And he shared a lot about that and the experiences that his mother had, and it really resonated with a lot of the parents. So this video is just a quick example of his talk. You'll see he's talking, and then Pastor is there, and he's translating for him. So just a little example here.
Get away from our living conditions.
Imekusomera somera ndiye jamani tunachotakisika kukanisa kanisa kuvasala sala na kuchoka kuvitu kwa vile vile pesa kuguru
From my mom, it's a breath of fresh air. It's my son, you know.
kuoni mabaima nga nakongoera chikuwa kusomera somera tunatenda gege baona kutaka kanti yumana ali free akazisomera nanti jamani tesa kutima chinatoka.
I got to play wheelchair basketball.
Ninaphunzira kuchaya basketball.
I learned how to play hand cycle.
Ninaphunzira kuchaya kitendo sports yamanja machinchinga.
You all saw me on my running legs.
Munao umezibona njengala yotamira upa.
I was a very active kid.
Inonezeni mwana wamene suwa shishita bati mwana mene atika mtuntu notu wasi kanile mwanga ambera msoni na ngugi ambera chinye mbana.
Roderick, he lives in Denver right now. I'm not sure where he's originally from, but yeah, that's where he is now. Doug, you had a question?
Which language was he translating into?
I believe that was Nyanja. So I think 90% of the people there, but that's an estimate. Most of the people there spoke Nyanja. We did have a second translator who spoke Bemba, and they were really with the same kind of one or two families the whole time. So we would speak in English, Pastor would translate it to Nyanja, and then the third person with us would translate to Bemba. So it was a really incredible kind of chain that we had. We were really thankful that we were able to have them with us.
Well, I just wonder, were there children who didn't have parents?
So the question was, were there children who didn't have parents? To my knowledge, I think most of them did. There was one child who, so the hospital has lodging. So all of these kids were staying at the hospital. They had beds and they fed them every day. So they were able to stay there because some people traveled from pretty far away to be able to come and get a prosthetic leg. I know there was at least one kid later in the week, we found out that his mom had kind of just dropped him off and he was just kind of alone for the week. And that was really hard. But of course, thankfully he made friends with the other kids and we were able to spend a lot of time with him. And on the final day, his mom came and she got to see him walking and it was really special. So that's a good question. I think there are probably a lot of different family situations, but that's the only specific one that I know of for sure. Yeah. Let's see. I'll go Mary.
What's the population of the number of children who need prostheses?
So I'm not sure. The question, in case for those on Zoom, I'm not sure if you can hear. The question is, what's the population of kids that need prostheses? And I'm really not sure. I know that when we went, there were at least 40 kids who were there. I think it's a lot. This is either the second or third trip that Lynn Kind has done to Zambia. And there were a few kids who were there the previous year, but it was a lot of new people too. So it's probably a lot. I don't have a specific number, but I think it's quite a few. Susan?
Do you know the criteria for who's accepted to the program?
So what's the criteria to get accepted to the program? I don't know the specifics. That's something that the hospital actually handles. So they make the initial connection with the families, and then they decide basically who is eligible to receive a prosthetic leg. They send their information to Lynn Kind, and then that way we know what to bring and how many legs we're making and things like that. So a lot of that is done by the local people who work at the hospital.
Great, thank you.
And then last one, we'll go to Sandy.
Brian, is this your one chance to go participate with this group in your life, or are you going to be a regular?
It depends. So there's a lot of, technically there's a lot of chances. So they do several trips every year. I think they're doing 5 or 6 different trips every year. It's quite a few. And it really just boils down to if I'm available. And or well, if I'm available and if they select me, because of course there's a lot of people who are interested.
Oh, good.
This is the second trip that I've done with them. I was able to go to Ethiopia with them in 2022. And when I came back, I thought this was an amazing trip. It's one of the coolest things I've ever done. I need some time before I do it again because it was exhausting. And I was in school at the time, just like I am now, also working full time. It takes a lot to be able to do these trips.
Oh, yeah.
So it will probably be a little while until I do another one, but I definitely hope I can do it again. So yeah, good question. I'll move on. Just to kind of keep things rolling here. So next was the big day. This was delivery day. So these are some of the prosthetic legs that were made by the wonderful prosthetists who were working very hard while we were having fun. And this one on the right is very special because it was 3D printed. Just this piece right here, just the socket. So, so basically what we were doing was Limkind was doing a proof of concept when it comes to 3D printing sockets. Basically the details that I got were there were some wealthy donors who wanted to potentially fund 3D printers being placed in hospitals and schools. I think not just in Zambia, but in different parts of Africa and other places. And so before they pay for that, we got to prove that it works, right? That it's reliable and that it's efficient. And so of the 40 some prosthetic legs that we made, 4 or 5 of them were 3D printed. And the way that it worked was on the first day when the prosthetists were doing casting, for the 4 kids that had a 3D printed leg, they didn't get a cast. They had some kind of scanner. I don't know exactly what it was, but and they moved it all around their residual limb, and it took a digital capture of their residual limb. So you look on the computer screen, and there's a 3D model of their leg. And then one of the prosthetists, his name was Paul, and this was kind of his specialization. He was sitting on a computer, and it was really interesting. There was like a little kind of arm that came up from the table with a pen that was connected to it. And he sat at the computer, and he held the pen, and he moved it in the air, and it tracked his drawings onto the 3D model on the computer. And I don't know exactly what it did, but basically he was able to design a socket on top of the 3D model of the leg on the computer. So once he did that, the sockets printed in Boston. There was a woman who went to Boston, got the sockets, flew and met us in Zambia at the end of the week with those sockets. And that was our 20th team member who joined us later in the week. And I have to say, the sockets that were 3D printed were really good. Yeah, it was very successful. I heard very good things from the prosthetists and from the kids who were using them. And so I'm not quite sure what the status is on sort of the process of moving towards getting these printers installed, but this was all very positive, which was really, really great. So we were very happy with that.
Is the 3D prosthesis lighter than yours?
Probably. That's my guess. I'm guessing the material is probably lighter. Usually for a standard prosthesis, it's a carbon fiber material, which is lighter than a lot of other materials. But as far as I know, I think this is almost similar to like a plastic kind of substance. And I'm guessing it's probably a bit lighter. Dick, did you have a question?
What was the mix of boys and girls, and what did that have an impact on their future prospects that you had to address or deal with?
That's a good question. I don't remember what the exact ratio was. In hindsight, it feels like it was fairly 50-50. A lot of boys and a lot of girls. And all different ages too. You can see this one is very small. When you look at the hand, it's only about the size of like a forearm. And I do remember that this one was made for a toddler. I remember the mother carrying them around all day and seeing them kind of when they were trying to fit the leg, like kind of holding his hands and trying to get him to stand. Because he wasn't even really old enough to walk, even if he had a standard anatomical leg. And so it was really kind of interesting to see. But this way, he's able to learn how to walk like any other kid. So, in terms of their prospects for life and kind of the different genders that were there, I don't remember too much about that. I know that a lot of the moms of the daughters were asked me about my love life a lot. They really wanted to know from all the mentors. I think I was the only one that was married, and some of the other, or no, two of us were married, and the other were in relationships, and they wanted to know all the details of how we met, how they reacted, did we hide our legs, how all of that went, which is important to know. Those are things that people are concerned about. The boys, I remember one parent saying that their son was a farmer, and they wanted to know if he was going to be able to go back to farming. And, it kind of depends on a lot of things, but the possibility is there. So I think that was basically what we had said. And those are the only specific instances I remember that shed light on that, but that's a good question. I'll do one more. Tony?
Just quickly, were there any females who were there as mentors who had artificial limbs?
On this trip, unfortunately, there weren't. When I went to Ethiopia, it was about half and half. There were 2 or 3 women and then 2 or 3 men. Yeah, on this trip, somehow it ended up being all men. I know that they usually, with who's available, they try to get a pretty diverse selection of mentors in many ways, including the level of amputation and gender and all those things. Because of course you want someone who's going to be able to relate to everyone who's there. So good question for this trip. There wasn't. Okay, I'm going to move to our next. We have just some more pictures and things. On the picture on the left, you see all these kids standing here with their legs. You see they all look different. They're different kinds of devices. Some of them are below the knee. Some of them are above the knee. Some of them have two. Some have one. And so the day that they get their legs, we also give them these limb kind shirts too. So it's kind of fun because the way that it works is at the beginning of the day, the mentors and the PTs, we go outside and we do a low energy activity with the kids. We make bracelets and colored and things like that. And the prosthetists come out and they call who's up next. So it's kind of a very tense day because the kids and the parents are all anxious. They want to get in there. It's really a roller coaster of emotions because, like I said, it's very exciting, but there's also some realities that can hit that can be a little difficult. There's lots of tears, both happy and worried, sad, lots of emotions on this day. And so it was really nice because you would see these kids kind of getting called back one by one. And then all of a sudden they would come out with their limb kind shirt and their leg and everyone would cheer. And it was really special. So I have a few short videos of some of the kids walking for the first time. Some of the videos are a little grainy and don't look the best. A lot of these were taken on cell phones, and I think I'm the only person that took a video horizontally. Everyone else took them like this. I did my best to try and fit them on the screen and make them look good, but here we go. Here's a couple examples here.
Look at me. Look at me. Sit up. That's a girl.
Then a couple more. Learning to stand up.
This is.
Oh, he's a double, that one.
His name was Booyah. So anytime he did anything, well, Booyah! And then there's another one.
He's going.
Just a very short one.
Oh,
Who's that? He
That's
looks familiar. And a video of Bumpy Rodwell. So you can see when he walks, he's moving his left leg forward really quickly. And a lot of times that happens when you're missing one leg because you kind of have to learn to trust that the prosthesis is going to hold you up.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, when they take their first steps, they kick their real leg out really fast because they want to catch themselves because it's kind of scared.
Yeah.
And so you'll see, but obviously he's doing great. I mean, he's not even using any so even just to be able to do that, it's a huge accomplishment.
No, it's not. I got it. Hey, you know, it's big. It's big. I don't got it.
Oh, that's-
I think there's a couple more. Okay. So one more picture on the left of Israel. He was one of the other mentors walking with one of the kids. This picture on the right is the best picture that we took. Someone took this on the end of delivery day, and it was all of the crutches that had been tossed aside and thrown so the kids didn't need them.
Oh,
that's.
So yeah, so that was really special.
wow.
Dick, you have a question?
Yeah, with all these kids at different ages, some of them are gonna outgrow these things pretty quickly. What happens then?
Yeah, good question. So, what do the kids do when they outgrow their prosthesis? In their situation, they're actually kind of lucky because when we leave, this hospital did still have a prosthetic lab. So, if they needed, there are some slight modifications and things you can do to kind of compensate for growth until you get a brand new leg. So, as they're growing, if they need some changes, they were able to reach out to the hospital and they were able to get them some slight modifications. The other thing is that limb kind comes back the next year. So when they outgrow it and they need a new one, we're back and we can make a new one. And again, that's one of the things I love about limb kind is that it's not like we just show up and we leave them. We come back and we do continual care and they stay in touch with the hospital. And it's a really wonderful process that they develop.
One more question.
Well, let's go to Nancy Pine.
I wonder about the throwing away of the crutches because in fact, I know some people with amputation who have one leg. And they actually still use crutches when they take off their leg, like when they get up out of bed. So,
Yeah.
so, I think these guys need their crutches at some point.
Yeah, good question. So they tossed the crutches aside momentarily.
Yeah.
They did all bring them home and they kept them because it's true. Some people who are only missing one leg, there are still times where it's nice to have crutches with you. Usually when you come home at the end of the day, the first thing you want to do is take your leg off because it's all sweaty and sometimes it can be sore. And so a lot of people will use crutches to kind of get around the house. And that is a good point. Yeah. So you can still utilize things like that. Some people will still use wheelchairs at home, things like that. It totally just depends on the person. Everyone is different and has different preferences and needs. And so.
This picture has been more of a symbol of the advancement.
Yeah, and was kind of like the cherry on top of the day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, end of delivery day. So it really kind of spoke to like, wow, what a great day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good question. I'll do one more from Barbara.
Does the hospital have capacity to do follow-up physical therapy with these children?
So they have a limited capacity to follow up with some of the children with physical therapy and modifying the prosthesis. I'm not exactly sure the degree that they're able to. I do know that they have a physical therapy department and they have a prosthetic lab and they're able to do some things. I don't think that their PT programs are quite as robust as a lot of what we have here in the States. We have physical therapists that specialize in helping amputees learn to walk. When I learned to walk, I worked with quite a few physical therapists where that was their specialization. Like they knew about the body, they knew about the prostheses and how they function. They worked with my prosthetist on certain things. And unfortunately, they're not able to get that level of care after we go, but they are able to have some support. which is nice because some of the other places that Limkind goes, Limkind is pretty much all they have. And once we go, they kind of just have to wait until they're able to return. So that is the one thing that was nice about Zambia, is that to a degree, they did have something to do continual care. So I'm gonna move on to the next one here. Okay, so after delivery day, on the very last day that we were at the hospital, we did something called Show Your Shine. So Show Your Shine is basically like a fashion show, kind of. The kids have the opportunity to get all gussy up and strut down the red carpet, show off their new legs. We cheer for them and all these fun things. So we brought sunglasses and bandanas and these leis that they have around their neck. We even did their makeup and painted their nails and all kinds of fun things just to, get them all dressed up. And you can see they look like they're having a pretty good time. And so I do have some pictures and videos from that.
Wow. Wow. Oh, it's great.
A couple more. Let's see.
Oh, He's walking. Oh, yes. Yes. Wow. Wow. Very nice. It's like it's neat under the bed.
And then one more.
I don't want to know about.
Okay. So that was really great. It was all the parents and the whole Kind team. We were all there. And then we also invited the hospital staff to join us. So there were basically everyone who wasn't working at that time came to see. And it was really fun. It was a really fun atmosphere. It was really felt like people hanging from the rafters. Just totally filled the room. Initially, we were going to do it outside, and then after we had decorated and set everything up, it started pouring. So we pivoted and we moved inside, and as you can see, it went really well, and it was really great. So after, one more. So, okay, so this guy's name is David. Now, David actually works at the hospital in the prosthetics lab. And as you can see, he himself is an amputee. And so he's been working in the lab, making prosthetic legs for all these kids from a wheelchair because he didn't have his own set of prosthetic legs. And so Rob made an exception and we made legs for one adult on this trip, and it was David.
Oh, good.
And so you can see he's in these shorter feet. I have a pair kind of similar. So we call these stubbies. These are almost kind of like training legs you can think of, or you can think of them that way. When you have full tall legs with knees, it takes a lot to learn how to walk in them. It takes a lot of muscle. You have to have really flexible hips. And so These are a way to just kind of get going, to get up on your feet, stretch out your hips, strengthen a little bit. If you fall, you're closer to the ground, those kinds of things. So once you master these, then you get to move up to the full length knees like I have. And we were able to give David both. So both the stubbies and the knees. So that if he's ready before we come back again, he can swap to the knees. And it was really special because he knows all the hospital staff, he knows everyone there, and everyone was so happy and so excited for him. So it was really great that we were able to do that. And you can see he's having a good time.
Yeah.
So great. So at the very end of Show Your Shine, they announced that the parents wanted to sing a song for us to say thank you. And this was our last day at the hospital, and we were coming to the end, getting ready to say all of our goodbyes. And so they told us that the parents wanted to sing a song to send us off. And so this is a little video of one of the songs that they sent.
Yes.
I love it.
And so we were all crying. And after that, we had to say our goodbyes. So we said goodbye to the kids and the parents and the hospital staff. And that was our last full day at the hospital. So the next day is when we left to come home. We checked out of the hotel at 11 a.m. and our flight wasn't until 11 p.m. So we had the whole day to go do something fun. And Rob told us that he had a surprise planned. And so we got to go check out a little village kind of on the outskirts of Lusaka. So I guess there's a local tour group that brings tourists around the country and shows them things. And they had met this family that lived in this village, and they had basically said, we'll bring you money and clothes and resources and things like that. And in exchange, they teach people about their way of life and show them their home. And so it was really special to get to meet them. The gentleman in the orange shirt over here was the father, so he was kind of like the leader. And we got to listen to him about, kind of how they live and some of the things they do. This building behind them was the kitchen. And so they had like a little fire and they would roast corn there and make other kinds of foods. One other picture. This picture on the left was their house. And on the right here, they showed us all kinds of really interesting things. They showed us how they make pottery. And they even let us try, which was really hilarious because they're obviously so good at it. And we were just had these big balls of mud all mushed up. It was really fun. But so they showed us pottery. They showed us some of the games that they play. There was one where they dug little circles in the dirt and had stones. And it was kind of similar to Mancala, if you're familiar with that. And they destroyed all of us when we played them. They were so good at it. We played jump rope with them, with the kids, all kinds of fun things. So definitely a really unique experience. And we all felt very privileged to be able to go meet them and kind of learn about their way of life. So that was the trip.
Oh, lovely.
Thank you so much. This was great.
It was great.
It's absolutely heartwarming.
It's nice because whenever I do a trip like this or any kind of fun trip, I come home and I feel like all I want to do is just give a presentation about how amazing it was. So it's nice. I actually got to do that. That's good.
It's great for us.
Yeah. So we'll open it up to questions. If you're watching on Zoom, if you have a question, you can type it in the chat and I'll be able to see. We already have a first question, which is along with Ethiopia and Zambia, where else does Limkind go? All kinds of places. They go to Sri Lanka, they go to Kenya, the Philippines, all kinds of places. It's all on their website in case you want to. And Diane?
Do you do anything with limbs like arms?
Yeah.
Or is it all limb?
Good question. So on this trip, there just weren't any kids that needed an arm.
Okay.
When I went to Ethiopia, there were two, and that was really interesting too, to see the kind of contraptions that they make. Because there's about 1 million different ways you can make a prosthetic arm. And so I got to see a little bit of that in Ethiopia and saw the physical therapist teach them how to kind of open and close like the equivalent of the fingers and
Yeah.
picking up food, and that was really interesting too. So yeah, good question. Okay, I think I saw Susan first.
So, the headquarters is in New York, did you say?
Yes, they're based in Queens.
Okay, and two questions. Do they ever do anything in the United States?
So, you know how we did Show Your Shine, where the kids walk down the.
Yeah.
So they do a much bigger event with a lot more production as their main fundraiser every year. It's actually, I think, this weekend in New York. And if you Google, there's been some coverage. I think like CNN and ABC have done some coverage of it, where they get both kids and adults who are amputees to get all dressed up and walk down the runway, and they have flashing lights. And every year it gets bigger and bigger because of the support they've had. So
These are their patients or these are?
just
No,
people
just
who are
people.
connected in various ways.
So
Some patients, some people who have volunteered with the organization. Rob and Jill, the founders, are involved in a lot of different organizations, and so they've met a lot of families through that, and just kind of all coming from different places.
I think the question is there such an event, such as going to Africa, someplace in America?
Oh, like doing a trip somewhere in America to make legs. So they don't, but they do make them in their clinic that's in New York. So right now they're mainly focusing their resources on other countries. I think probably because I mean it depends on where you go, but generally the need is greater in a lot of other places. Obviously, we still have problems in the United States, which I'm not even going to get into. But yeah. So good question. Yeah. Let's see, Don. I think.
Yeah, clearly there's a large compassion component. I was just curious with you, is there a ministry component as well? Because clearly some of the moms look like they were.
Yeah.
Very
So Limkind is not a faith-based organization. Cure International is. Zambia is mostly Protestant Christian in their population. That's the most common faith. And so when you listen to people talk about their lives and how they view their situation, their faith is definitely very connected to it. That's something that Limkind doesn't really address, but the hospital has people on staff who can. So that's kind of how that all works out. Yeah, good question. Okay, Tony?
I'm just wondering if they're going to move to 3D printing.
It's a good question. And it sounds like eventually they will. I'm not quite sure how far along they are in that process. I believe what we did was kind of like the final proof of concept,
Okay.
because they had tested it out on a few of the other trips earlier this year. And based on what I heard across the board, it all went great. So my impression is that is something they're going to move towards. I'm sure it'll take some time working out the logistics and everything, but I believe the goal is to get these printers not only in some of the hospitals, but in some of the schools,
Sure.
because they're trying to build up and
Yeah.
develop their programs to
Yeah.
teach people how do you make a prosthetic leg?
Yes.
How do you teach someone how to walk with one? And so hopefully that's something that will
Yeah.
help to kind of strengthen the country in general and their abilities to deal with this kind of stuff.
Great.
Susan?
How does Limkind get funded? Are there grants? Is it donations? How is the funding?
I think it's a mix of things, grants, donations. They do a lot of fundraisers, just like the Big Show Your Shine event that they do. It's a mix of things. I think kind of like a lot of nonprofits, they just pull from wherever they can.
And there's a little fundraiser going on. At
I was just,
Village.
that's true, that's true.
Fundraiser going on here.
Village.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a fundraiser going on here today.
Yes.
For this?
Yes, yes.
Jocelyn?
On the ones that had amputations of other knees, I noticed a lot of I didn't see anybody bending their knees.
Yeah.
Is that something you have to really work on and learn how to do?
It is, and especially, and again, it depends on what kind of knee you have. Generally, there's a very specific movement you have to make to get the knee to bend. And especially with the kinds of knees that they have that are really all just physics. So you really have to, your foot has to make contact with the floor in a very specific way to really roll through the foot and do all of the things that are necessary for the knee to go. And it takes time to do that. I have some videos of when I was first learning how to walk and my knees didn't bend for like a month or two probably. It's something it's hard to describe, but you kind of just have to, eventually it just happens. It just becomes natural. It's like learning to ride a bike. Like one day it clicks and you can do it. And especially if you're double above it, it's actually difficult because you're trying to do it with two. So yeah, it's a good question. It takes a lot. Any other questions? Okay.
Well, one question.
Oh yeah.
You said there's some areas that are so primitive that you're the only option. What part of the world would that be in? I'm just curious.
Say that
What
again.
part of the world is that? The
Repeat the question.
yeah, you're the only option in some of these areas that it's so primitive. And where would that be? And what part of the world is that?
What part of the world's like rely on organizations like Limkind and- Well, I know the countries that Limkind goes to.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of countries and think about like developing nations. What comes to your mind with that phrase? And it's a lot of those, a lot that are still kind of developing their healthcare programs and their education. And because it's definitely a very specialized area, you know, learning how to do things like make a prosthetic leg or teach someone how to use it. And so probably a lot of places I would think. I think there's probably a lot.
Okay.
Karen?
Yeah, how far away did some of these families be in this program?
Yeah.
Because I imagine in really remote areas, if you're about a program, you would be willing to go a long way to be able to manage. So you have a sense of what the radius was and how far some families came.
I know there are some families who travel about 4 or 5 hours. That's the only exact metric that I remember being mentioned by someone. So I know they came from pretty far. I think probably the biggest challenge is that they had to first be connected with the hospital.
Right.
Because like I said, the hospital are kind of the ones who got together the list of people being treated.
Right.
And so I think it helps that it was in the capital, and the capital is fairly central. So yeah, I know there were people who traveled hours away, drove. They had some kinds of like public transportation, like little buses that I think you can hire to pick you up, things like that. So I don't remember specific metrics, but I know people came from pretty far.
I would think so.
Barbara?
Did Limkind also pay for the housing and the food for the families and children?
That was all covered by the hospital. So the hospital provided all of that at no cost to the families. They housed them, they fed them. I'm trying to remember. I think there might have even been some other kinds of services that they provided too. So yeah, it's all taken care of by the hospital so that if they can get there, they're taken care of, which is really nice. Jocelyn?
And where does the hospital get its money?
Yeah.
Well, it's a nonprofit, so I think similar donations, grants, I know that they're based in the United States. Their headquarters is in Michigan.
Oh, that was the other organization here. What's
Yeah.
the?
So it's called Cure International.
Here, they are?
Cure. CURE, Cure International. So they're the organization that is faith-based. I know that there are a lot of churches and people who will donate to them. I grew up in near Grand Rapids where they're based. I went to a lot of churches as a kid. I knew about Cure since I was pretty young because all of them supported the hospital. So they get a lot of funding in those means too. Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.